Janna is the classic shielding peel support, a champion who requires teammates to do anything, right? Well, I have found a Grandmaster player who is the complete opposite of that, taking it into top lane as a solo killing split pushing champion who does not roam, starting Doran's Blade most games, with a new on-hit AP build and Ghost Ignite as his summoners. Janna gains a ton of bonus damage thanks to her speed passive, outrunning, kiting and autoing enemies to death, even building Lichbane first item and then split pushing on Janna. This is something we've never seen before, and if you're confused, don't worry, he even has a PowerPoint that he links in Champ Select to explain it to his teammates. Something that's much easier to understand is our amazing new sponsor, U.GG, now with a beautiful standalone desktop app with so many new features, taking care of all the boring work, letting you focus on winning. It has jungle timers showing you exactly when your camps will respawn, as well as the enemies if you've gotten vision of them, dynamic skill leveling order in-game adapted to the situation to show you the best option, in-game builds taking the best data to give you the best build possible for every game, scouting everyone as the game goes on to give you a huge amount of info to help you win. Of course, UGG automatically imports loadouts with the best runes and builds for every role in Champ Select, as well as scouting to find your best picks and synergies with them to give you a hand. After the game, U.GG is incredible, having LP tracking on your profile and post-game analytics to see exactly how well you carried, or where you made a mistake, if that's even possible. Approved by Riot, completely safe to use even after Vanguard. UGG has always had amazing data and every single feature you need. Please download your new favourite league app from the link in the description. Back to Janna, a champion that has all the tools it takes to be a top laner. She has wave clear on her Q, a point and click damage slow on her W to kite enemies, a shield on her E to protect herself and give her AD to poke the enemy down, and an ultimate that resets any fight, perfect for team fights later on. But Janna's biggest problem is low damage and reliance on teammates. But our player, LightNReset, has discovered a new build and playstyle to easily win lane, solo killing champions that should easily 1v1 her, and then staying in a side lane no longer reliant on teammates at all. This is a build he actually discovered in Twisted Treeline over 5 years ago. He loved the 3v3 mode and he would play enchanters in a solo lane, gathering up all of the XP and carrying his team to get to a diamond rank. So afterwards, when he came back to Summoner's Rift, he stuck to it, playing Soraka, Nami and even Janna in a solo lane, testing them all. One thing he hated was roaming, so he vowed not to be a roaming support top laner like we've seen in the past, instead playing completely for his own advantage. So what is the purpose of Janna top lane? Well, let's look at his Champ Select presentation to find out. Janna top's goals. Number 1, prevent the enemy top laner from being a champion, because he can win lanes so hard against them. Or number 2, in the worst matchups, like against mobile burst champions, he can at least completely nullify the lane, never losing. He can wave clear, not get solo killed, and prevent the enemy top laner from ever getting an advantage, even shielding his tower to protect the tower plates. All this while Janna scales well into late game to help his team in fights. If there's one single build in the game that allows you to dominate your lane without the enemy even touching you once, as well as completely outplay enemies with movement speed, then this is it. It's the opposite of the old Smite Janna top lane who would let the enemy top laner get whatever they want and try and win the game elsewhere. This Janna completely controls top lane, not letting the enemy top play at all, and with it he climbed all the way to Grandmaster. But let's get in game to see how it works. At level 1, LightNReset believes that Janna might be one of the strongest champions in the game, but this isn't normal Janna. In fact, he buys Doran's Blade most games first item, letting him auto-attack enemies for even more damage and push them off the wave. He can start Q here against mobile champions and run around them poking them with auto-attacks, using the Q to disengage if they ever try to fight back. But he can also start Doran's Ring against immobile champions. In that case, he takes his point and click W slow and permanently spams it whenever it's up, slowing them and really annoying them over and over again. Level 2, he takes his other ability and continues the poke. The enemy top laner can't do anything but suffer, and then at level 3 he takes his E, which should be a nice break for the enemy top laner, except for the fact that his E also gives bonus physical damage on her auto attacks, so LightNReset can use this ability aggressively as well. One great tip for trading is that Janna's Q and W reduce her shield E cooldown, so whenever he goes for an aggressive trade, he uses the E first, then after the Q and W connect, his shield is back up again, ready to use it for even more damage, or rarely even to block the enemy's damage. But usually that isn't something he has to worry about, since he's so fast. Speaking of speed, this is where his weird summoners come in. Ghost and Ignite. Ignite, it's simple. He has a ton of poke, so Ignite allows him to get solo kills much easier, getting him lots of extra gold, so he can buy more AP, not just being a support. But Ghost is a lot more unique. Sure, the speed is great for chasing enemies and kiting them, but Ghost literally gives him more damage as well, thanks to Janna's passive. With Janna's passive, Tailwind, she deals bonus magic damage equal to 30% of her bonus bonus movement speed. So the more speed she has, the more damage her auto attacks deal, so Ghost increases her auto attack damage, and this even allows him to buy Nash's Tooth, Ginsu's, and other on-hit items. As this passive damage scales shockingly well, this completely opens up a whole new way to play the champion, swapping from a shielding support to a burst and DPS carry. Not just that, but it's also super good as well in the long top lane, where flash often isn't enough to get you to safety. His first big power spike is the item he rushes, Swiftness Boots, and this is where the importance of keeping space between you and the enemy and kiting really begins. Enemies can't touch Janna thanks to all the movement speed, but they also can't escape from her and run away, so they have no choice but to die. These boots are the cheapest and fastest option, so there's actually no way for enemies to buy items that will let them outrun Janna. It's pretty much a checkmate item. And not only that, he now never cares about ganks. With Ghost, Swiftness Boots and his Q disengage, there's no jungler that can catch him, so there's no point even ganking Janna. LightNReset says he never takes a fight without at least 2 spells up, knowing he needs the peel and the slows to control the 1v1. Otherwise Janna is just a squishy, low mobility champion. The spells and how you manage them is what makes her a bully. Shockingly, Janna can now easily take towers using her E damage when she's ahead, so in mid game he can split push on Janna, and if he gets collapsed on, he has the speed to get away, kiting and killing anyone who chases him. Janna chooses which fights she wants to take and is never caught thanks to her speed, so he's the one choosing the times to deal the damage or to back off and wait for cooldowns. One great trick he uses is that if he's collapsed on in a side lane, he can E forwards away from the enemy and then run into its path. By kiting the enemy towards it, he knows it will hit the enemy, so it's a guaranteed knockup and escape if he needs it. And now we get to the good part, his AP items. If he's ahead, he's more than happy to go Lichbane first item, making this split pushing style even more effective and annoying. The towers die super fast, and so do the enemies that try to protect them. Nash's Tooth is then one of his favourite second item options, perfect for kiting and DPS, as well as being pretty valuable AP damage for bursting squishy enemies in fights. But not every game is this dream scenario. Sometimes Janna top is just even, or sometimes he's behind. So what can he do then? Well, he can adapt his build. For example, going for an early Imperial Mandate to allow his teammates to deal more damage, or even better, Shurelia's. This item's great for speeding away from danger, but as we now know, the speed up is also huge for her burst damage thanks to her passive conversion, especially when comboed with the Ghost. So even if Janna is playing against a split push champion, our player's pretty happy. Janna has so much peel and wave clear on her Q, so she can't really be dived, and he can put extra points in his Q for more wave clear, denying the enemy split push. Against a proxy champion like Singed, same thing. He can max Q first, and easily match their wave clear, but at some point LightNReset says he should probably join his team, likely around any objective team fights. Since he has the extra gold and XP from solo laning, sure he can do his job as a peel support and he will be very good at it, but while he's protecting his carries, he isn't afraid to use his burst damage with W into Q to set up kills. After all, he doesn't want to let his teammates do all the work, he wants to carry them. So instead of just peeling in fights, he mostly tries to engage for his team. The best way to do this is with tornado predictions, and this is exactly what sets a good Janna and a great Janna apart. His favourite tip is to use Tornado from Fog of War and also keep his champion out of sight as well. If he does this, then the tornado will be invisible to enemies for the whole charge up duration. Once he leaves Fog of War, immediately the tornado is revealed, so he needs to time this perfectly to bait the enemy into the path of the tornado, and also hit a W to slow them to make it easier to land. If you were to leave the fog too early, the tornado would be revealed and the whole play would be ruined. Most importantly, he never rushes these tornadoes. He lets them charge for more damage and the highest knockup duration. A longer charge doesn't mean less chance to hit, it just means you have more time to bait enemies to walk into it. But honestly, against lots of team comps, especially dive champions, Janna top will just ruin their game plan anyway, and win the fight regardless of how she plays it because of her peel. If a Skarner runs in, Janna knocks him up and ults him away. If an assassin jumps on her carry, Janna can knock them up and ult them away as well. Being top lane just allows her to buy more damage, or more utility items, so she can have bigger shields, more burst, and even better peel. The rating for this pick really comes down to how good you are at kiting and keeping space between you and the enemy top laner. The pick itself is easy, lots of poke, point and click abilities, speed converted into damage. It has all the tools you need to ruin some poor top laner solo queue experience, and the utility to back it up in teamfights. But one thing that sets LightNReset apart, and lets him play in Grandmaster and even Challenger lobbies, is how good he is at kiting even the best players. If he gets hit by one big CC, or walks into a bad spot in lane just one time, that might be game over, and he'd lose lane immediately. Below Grandmaster, he can make a lot more mistakes and still destroy top lane and win games himself, so this pick has to have a very good rating, but it does peak in difficulty the higher rank he goes. The hardest top lane champion matchups for laning are Xin, Pantheon and Rumble, and the hardest matchups for scaling are things like Smolder, Vayne and Tryndamere, as they can outscale her, but most other ones are pretty easy, especially bruisers like Darius or Fiora. One exception is range top laners, who are harder. In those matchups he puts 3 points into his W, and then maxes E to avoid their poke, adapting to take Taste of Blood in his runes to heal their poke damage, and Relentless Hunter to help dodge their skill shots. The best way to avoid their poke is by baiting them into a tornado coming out of a bush, making sure they can't react to it. Here's his full build, making sure to go Swiftness Boots first item. Then if he's ahead, he loves the AP options of Lichbane, even Nash's Tooth into Deathcap third item if he wants more damage. But he's happy if even or behind to go supportive, and once he gets to his third item he can pretty much build anything. In fact, he said the build diversity is what he loves most about this pick. He can go Lichbane into Moonstone. He's even happy or crazy enough to go Serpent's Fang against teams that have lots of shields. It's really flexible. However, his one rune page is basically perfect, so he doesn't really need to change it often. As you expect, it's airy, with presence of mind and cut down in secondaries, especially against tanks. LightNReset has a Twitch and YouTube where he shows lots of Janna and even Lux top lane. Link to those and his champ select presentation are below. Quickly before we end the video, I just wanted to let everyone know that I've recently been having some health issues, so I'm taking a break from YouTube while I get treatment. So if videos are a bit more sparse, then at least you'll know why. I hope to be back and feeling better soon. And of course, thanks again to U.GG for sponsoring this video. Please check out their completely standalone League of Legends companion app at the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching.